You go to our website, www.careercenter, let me say it again, www.careercenter.ttu.edu.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to turn off my video so you don't have to watch me as we do this. And Ernesha has control of the slides. So you're going to hear me say, next slide, please, a lot. Do we have any more questions before we get started?
Not yet, but thank you.
Okay, well, here we go. Let me turn off my video. Okay. For some people, including myself, getting past the initial, hello, my name is tough sometimes. Sometimes it's really tough to reach out to someone and say, hello, my name is. And you actually have no control over when some successful opportunity will show itself. And when you do need to be prepared to act upon them and make a really big difference for the people that you meet and the people that are involved. When you refer someone, make sure you know exactly what they do. In other words, make sure you know who you're talking to, and that's going to take some of you, just like me too, out of my comfort zone. So first, you need to discover a shared interest to get the conversation going. We called it small talk back in the day. And then you need to agree upon something that is of a common interest. Next slide. Networking is the practice of meeting people and forming relationships that can help promote both individuals' professional endeavors. And in this session, I hope to touch on how you set up a networking plan. I want to tell you a little bit about networking behaviors to avoid. Also talk about maintaining your networks and how to use email and LinkedIn appropriately. Next slide, please. I'm also hoping that you'll become more protective of your reputation, because your reputation is everything. And now that you're on the internet almost day and night, your reputation can be ruined in a minute. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to become more protective of your reputation. And we're going to talk about how to develop effective networking skills and how to reap the benefits of using your own professional network that you have built yourself. Next slide, please. I hope you can read this. Go ahead and read through each one of these scenarios and see if you can find yourself. And then I'm going to ask a couple of questions. I'll just give you a couple of minutes to read through each one of those scenarios, and then I'm going to ask a couple of questions. Okay. Who thought that networking was the same as keeping in touch? You can type it into the chat box if you did. If you thought that networking was the same as keeping in touch. I'm going to open up the box so I can see. Yes, you're right, iPhone. It is different. It is different. Okay. What about this? At mixers and other networking venues, I feel self-conscious. Who feels like that sometimes? Let's see what's in the box. Okay, so no, oh, here we go. Yeah, yeah. It's real easy to feel self-conscious when you're at mixers and other social setting kinds of events and you don't know anybody there, or you're the only person there, or the youngest person there, the oldest person there. Maybe everybody is different from you ethnically. That's kind of a situation where it makes you feel self-conscious. Okay, what about I rarely have time to follow up after an initial contact with a person. Let's say you met somebody and they were talking with you about how you may go about getting a job. And you go back home and you don't even contact them because you're scared they're going to say, oh, that job was filled, or no, we don't have it. Has that ever happened? Okay, very good, very good. So what does that mean? It must mean that it's a good idea to follow up with everyone that you meet, especially if you promise to. That's a good networking rule to follow. Next slide, please. Okay. Now, first of all, when I talk about protecting your reputation, this is what I mean. At some point, go ahead and Google yourself and see what comes up. I did that once several years ago. I Googled myself and I found out that I shared the same name with a woman that had a wildlife refuge in San Antonio. Well, that's not me. So what I did is I had to make my name a little bit different from hers. I had to add an initial or something like that, or spell it differently. So go ahead and Google yourself and see what comes up. Another thing to protect your reputation is to check out your Facebook site for any comments or pictures that could harm you. If someone that you met is going to try to find you on Facebook, you don't want them to find you dancing at a party with a lampshade on your head, okay? So let's be sure to check out your Facebook site and get rid of all of the negative comments that may go back and forth. And also, if there are any pictures that would be deemed negative, get rid of those. Check your outgoing messages on your answering devices and your cell phones. Now, I know the new thing is to have a cell phone and never set up the voicemail. So when an employer or someone important gives you a call, they hear, this voice box has not been set up to take messages. Well, that's not good, because then you miss all the good stuff. Employers are either going to call you or they're going to email you. So go ahead and set up that voicemail so that if you miss a call, you'll be able to return it appropriately. And also on your any answering device that you may have, okay? But now I'm not saying play romantic music in the background and say, hi, this is Ella from Hotmail. No, we don't want that. We want you to be very professional and say your full name and tell them to leave a message if you can't get to the message. Order a free credit report from Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Now, all three of those organizations have your information. What may happen is one of them may have something negative, and then you won't be able to get a job like you would like. And you wouldn't want an employer to pull a credit report and it has some information on it that might not even be yours. I know, for example, that Enterprise Rent-A-Car won't give you a car unless you have good credit. Now, they'll give you a car if you work for them. They'll give you a car to drive to and from work and on your errands and whatever else. But if you don't have good credit, you miss out on that. So go ahead and order that free credit report from those three organizations and look over it. There might be somebody else's negative stuff up on there, and you would want to get rid of it. Use your TTU email address for professional correspondence. I've learned over the years and working with many, many thousands of employers that employers that do recruiting on college campuses always go to the college campus email address first. And then they do Hotmail and Gmail and Yahoo and all of the others. But if they're responsible for recruiting on campus, that's what they go to first. So be sure to have your TTU email address where people can get in touch with you. Next slide, please. Now, let's talk a little bit about developing a networking plan. Even you have to ask yourself, do you want your network to help you generate more contacts, give you advice or information, or provide guidance and encouragement? Or do you want all of that? I'll bet some of you want all of that. Clarify why you want to connect with someone. Let them know why you want to connect with them. You tell them who you are. You say what you would like. You tell them a little bit about yourself, and then you say what you would like. Go ahead and write down your goals and the names or the types of people that you would like to meet. Some of them might be for mentoring purposes. Maybe you want to choose a mentor or someone that can write a letter of reference for you somehow later on. So have a purpose in mind. Focus on building a leads or referral engine to get to your new prospects for your networking. You must be very clear about your reasoning to want to reconnect with someone. So don't be embarrassed about what you might be asking for. Go ahead and ask for it, because if you don't ask for it, there's one thing we know for sure: you won't get it. And networking is not the same as keeping in touch. Remember that. It's more than keeping in touch. It's also helping the other person reach their goals, just as they are helping you to reach yours. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about who's in the network. You could have mentors in there. You could have colleagues. I'm sure many of you have part-time jobs, and you could have people that you work with in there. You could have friends, because that's how some students find their internships. They find it through a friend. And you could have other kinds of contacts. Those would be corporate contacts from the corporations that you might want to go to work for. So developing a networking plan is very important. And learn to choose the right people from the categories. I have been involved in teaching a resume workshop for student teachers. And one of the statements that my colleague makes when she does her part of the presentation is, if you ask one of your professors for a letter of reference and they say that they're really busy right now, that they don't have time to do that, then go to someone else in your network. Because if they're real busy and they don't have time to do it, they might not give you such a good letter, and you want a good letter. So go to the next person that you have in your network. So it needs to be more than one mentor in there, okay? It's a good practice to blur the boundaries. No network should be static. If you find that there's somebody in your network that's not spending time with you or having conversations with you, then let that person go. Maybe they can be better off in somebody else's network. Next slide, please. Okay, now we get into the good part. We're taking a look at networking behaviors to avoid. Now, you know what schmoozing is, right? We're saying don't schmooze with somebody, you know, just be so compliant and so willing to be in somebody's corner that every time you turn around, you see that person is with that same person all the time. That's really not healthy networking. Don't rely on gossip. If you hear something about one of your classmates, for example, don't spread it. Don't spread it amongst everybody. If you hear something bad about a particular company, don't spread it. Don't rely on gossip. Look up the facts, okay? Another one is don't keep score. If you've reached out to one of your people in your network 2 times, and 2 times they haven't returned your call or they haven't returned your email, you probably wouldn't want to try more than once more to try to figure out what's going on and then try to move on to someone else. Don't monopolize the conversation when you reach out to someone in your network. Listen. Listen more than talking. Let's say that you want to meet someone that has a gatekeeper, and a gatekeeper is somebody who's in the front office. And you want to get to the person that's on your network. Well, you're going to have to get the gatekeeper to be your friend too. So know how to treat gatekeepers, because part of their job is to keep people from getting to whoever is behind the gate. You don't want to be a wallflower when you go to your professional conferences like NSBE and SHIP and SWE and all of the other professional conferences that you might attend. And you don't want to be an ankle hugger. And I'll tell you what an ankle hugger is. An ankle hugger is when 2 students or two people who are attending a conference might go to the conference together, and every time you see one, you see the other one. An ankle hugger is the same thing as someone who schmoozes. So you want to break off. If you go in a group, say 14 people are in your group, don't be with the same people with the same shirts on all the time. Break it up and branch out and meet new people. That's how you make your network. Gather business cards if you're at an event for networking. Definitely gather business cards and contact information. But don't just do that. Tell the individual that you will be getting back to them and actually do that. Get back to the individual. Next slide, please. Maintaining your networks. You must build trust through intimacy. Sometimes you have to skip the small talk and get to what matters, especially if people are introverts. I'm sure there are quite a few introverts in the audience here today. Introverts, when they network different from extroverts. Extroverts just let it all hang out. They don't care what they're talking about. They could be talking about dogs and cats and whatever else, but that's building intimacy, and they're making small talk to do it. Now, the introvert wants you to get right down to the facts. Let's just have a conversation about what we really want to do or what we really want to have. And then I'll see you tomorrow morning and we can pick up where we left off. Something like that. So that's the difference in the approach between introverts and extroverts when they're networking. Give your talents, your hard work, your contacts and time to others without keeping score. While you're out there networking, you might find someone that one of your fellow mentor tech proteges could use. Well, let that person know about that person. That's all about networking. You can even trade networks if you want to. If you've built a network from an internship that you had last summer, and you're not going to go into that industry, but you know a protege that is going to go in that industry and is looking for an internship in that field, go ahead and share. Trade networks whenever you need to. Next slide, please. Okay, managing your brand. Now, if I said, think outside the bun, what would you all, who is that? What company is that? Go ahead and put it in the chat box. What company is that? Think outside the bun. Okay, I'm going to look in the chat box and see if anybody got it. You bet, it's Taco Bell. Okay, I didn't have to say the name of the company, did I? If I said, from here it's possible, whose tagline is that? I'm gonna look in the chat box. From here it's possible. Yes, yes, Texas Tech. Okay, now that's how you need to be familiar with your brand. What is it that makes you you and makes you attractive enough for other people to want to be engaged with you in a conversation, in a network, in getting a job kind of situation, or anything like that? So be prepared and be targeted. And don't waste other people's time, because you don't want anybody wasting your time. But you're developing a brand that every employer can recognize. I say that I'm punctual. I'm always going to be on time. Okay? Or I'm compassionate and I have excellent customer service skills. Well, that's part of your brand. All right. Create some principles for yourself. And by that, I mean, if it seems like it's a waste of time, with that particular contact, it might be. So know your breaking point, know when to break off and to let that one go and you go to the next one. Be professional and patient. And one of the hardest things to do during networking is to leave a group before the group has broken up. And that's when I say you have to exit gracefully. You don't just say, oh, I see somebody over here I want to talk to. No, you don't do that. You exit gracefully and say, gee, I've enjoyed speaking with you all today, and I'm going to get a little something to eat if you're at a conference or at a buffet or something like that. I'm going to get a little something to eat and I may go upstairs, but I'll see you in the morning for coffee. Make a gracious effort to exit the group. You want to focus on quality too. And I know this seems kind of terrible, but if somebody can't help you, then maybe you flip it over and you just help them. Help them get what they need. And maybe they'll tell somebody else how you helped them. and they'll connect you with somebody that can help you. And always, always remember that appearance counts. People make assumptions about people by their appearance. And it's awful, but first impressions are lasting impressions, even when the impression is wrong. So what you don't want to do is give someone an impression that you're not worth it, that you're not worth the conversation, or that you don't want to talk to them. If they always see you dressed a certain way, you really truly have to take pride in how you look, because appearance does count. Differentiate yourself to get the connection. If you can put a little spin on that, that's good. The next slide, please. Now, here's some ways for you to develop your competitive edge. The first thing for some of you would be to create your own website, especially those of you that are going into computer science and so forth. You want to have your little website all ready for an employer to take a look at. You can create your own website. For those of you that can't code or don't want to code, you can certainly always use an existing website for yourself, or you can buy one. But create your own website means, especially in the area of employment, it means giving the employer a chance to see you in your natural habitat. For example, if you're someone that likes to hike, you want to have a picture of you hiking up a mountain somewhere. Or if someone who likes to fish, you want to have a picture of you fishing. And you really wouldn't necessarily put that on your LinkedIn site. So when you create your website, you're actually letting someone who you're starting a network with, letting them see you in your personal habitat, the part that you like when you have your free time. Create your own business cards, and Texas Tech will let you use the logo, the Texas Tech logo on your cards. But create your own business card, and on it have your name, and under it your major and the year that you will graduate. On the back of it, put some of your strengths. I'm good at this, or I like doing this, I'm a problem solver, whatever it might be. And certainly join various professional groups that are related to your field. I know a lot of you, there are over 600 student groups on campus. A lot of you are probably networking through Mentor Tech, which is a good start. Yes, do that. Network with your PAC members, network with your leaders in the organization, and network with other proteges, because who knows, someone may have an uncle or an aunt that's in the same field that you want to go into. And above all, know your worth. Because when it comes time to getting a full-time job, especially a full-time job, you want to know when an employer is lowballing you. So you need to find out what your worth is. If you're going to be a petroleum engineer, what do entry-level petroleum engineers make? They make somewhere around $75,000. But you really need to go on a website and find out exactly what you're worth as an entry-level individual, so that you can feel comfortable when you're speaking with people that are in your network. You know, networking isn't always about who you know, but it is about who do you know that knows somebody that knows you. All right, next slide, please. Now, using email and LinkedIn, emails must always stay in the form of corporate communication, because usually when you're networking through email, it might not be your personal email. It might be your company email or your Texas Tech email. And you would certainly want that to be professional. So always keep something professional. And don't just pop off an email right away. Read over it again and read over it again. And if you need to reword it so that people won't take it the wrong way, go ahead and do that. But email is always in the realm of corporate communication. And networking is about making a connection one person at a time. And just think, one person at a time, and you have 10 people in your network. You've done your work. LinkedIn and other social media sites are not to be used like phone books. Don't go and Google a company and then contact everybody that comes up as working at that company. No, you don't want to do that. You pick out someone who you figure you can form a relationship with, and join some of those groups on LinkedIn too, because some of those affinity groups might be talking about things that you want to do. And you could probably start your own group if you want to. That's a great way to network. Next slide, please. Build a system of connections, and we talked about that. And in your summary statement on your resume, use keywords. Okay, future engineer if you want to, or internship in industrial engineering. You want to have on your LinkedIn page, you want to post a professional headshot of yourself. And it doesn't have to be taken by a full-fledged photographer. You can get a friend to take a picture of you with an iPhone. But just make sure it's a nice headshot and that you're dressed neatly. Ask questions. Ask plenty of questions. That's what people who can be on your network, that's what they want you to do, is ask questions. And research companies especially, and career paths, so that if someone asks you, oh, what's your major? What would you like to do with that major? Oh, I don't know. I never thought of what I wanted to do with it. I just like it. No, you're going to have to get a little bit better than that, okay? So you want to build a system of connections. Next slide, please. We talked about this a little bit, and this is the last slide. Where to find your contacts. Friends, family, and their friends. And your peers, and your other proteges, and your other pack leaders, and so forth. That's where you can find your contacts. You can also go to career fairs, like the All Majors Fair on October 14th. And you can go to employer information sessions. We got a whole bunch of those coming up in the next few days. And you can also go to networking events. We've got a big networking event coming up. It's called the Mocktail Party. Now, when we could meet in person, we would have, of course, it's pink lemonade with cherries in it, but we called it mocktails. We would have mocktails and hors d'oeuvres, and you would hear a professional networking speaker tell you what to do. You would go into another room and it would have employers at every table, and you walk up to an employer, introduce yourself, and start networking. Well, it's going to be virtual this time, so it'll be a little different, but it will have the same value for you. So the mocktail party's coming up, and you do have to register for that. Alumni networks and campus mentoring programs like MentorTech, great way to start networking. And of course, community groups. your sororities, your fraternities, and any of your community groups that you want to involve yourself with. The Chamber of Commerce, if you volunteer for the Hub City Barbecue or something like that, you can do that and get your network started. Okay, that's all I have with the slides. And I'm going to put myself back where you can see me. And I'm going to ask, are there any questions? Do you have any questions? Anybody?
I have a question.
Yes.
So I know you mentioned about like knowing your worth, based off, I guess, like salary and comparing it to what others make. But like, okay,
Yes.
so I graduate in December with mechanical engineering,
Yes.
and that's kind of something I don't really understand. Like, is it something I could negotiate my salary with the company with, or am I just kind of stuck with whatever they offer me?
Oh, you're not stuck. You're not stuck and you can't be fearful. I'm going to give you a website to go to. Okay.
Okay.
First of all, we have it on our website and it's called NACE Calculator. NACE Calculator.
Okay, I'm looking it up right now.
On our website. It's
Oh, I
and
found
it's
it.
kind of hard to find. I need to admit that. It's kind of hard to find. And you put yourself in as the job seeker.
Okay.
Did you find it?
Um, it's when I first like typed it in, it went to another school, but
Oh, good
I was
Lord.
trying to find
Another
the Texas
school?
Tech one now. Um,
Okay, if you can't get in through our website, here's another site, jobsearchintelligence.com. Jobsearchintelligence.com. And it's going to ask you questions. It's going to ask your GPA. It's going to ask what school did you go to. It's also going to ask the job title. So in your case, you might have manufacturing engineer as a title. You might have aerospace engineer as a title. And it also asks how much experience do you have, okay? And where is the job? So you're going to have to pick a city that you would like to live in. And
okay.
then when you put all that information in, it will give you what some of the highest salaries are in that field, in that town. It'll give you the mid-range salaries, and it'll give you what they can offer you as a 0 to 3 years experience. Because most people just coming out of school have 0 to 3 or 0 to 4 years experience if you have had an internship or such. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
I posted in the
Yes, and
chat
you'll
what
find out exactly what you're worth. Hmm?
I posted in the chat what I found on the University Career Center underneath salary negotiation. So that's the website that it directs you to, and that's the rate that they have.
Okay. Any more questions?
Yes.
And you saw them?
Yeah.
You saw their names?
Yeah, like I spoke to them at the job fair, but they didn't provide their email address in general to like everyone for this last virtual fair.
Yeah, yeah. But they gave you their names.
Yes.
Yeah, you can reach out to them through LinkedIn.
Okay.
The hardest thing in the world to do is to reach out to a stranger. And I know that from time to time, all of us get these requests, and it's like, who is that? You know, but sometimes strangers are good too, because they might lead you to somebody else, but sometimes they won't answer back. if they don't know who you are. So you do have to preface it with, I met you at the job fair,
Okay.
and I told you about my plan to dot, 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 dot. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any other questions I can answer?
Alrighty, so let's give Carol a virtual round of applause. Thank you so much for coming and speaking to us virtually. We really appreciate it. And if it's okay, I'll give them your email
Oh,
and
sure,
that I'll
sure.
send out.
Mhm,
So I'll attach the file that you sent, and I also put it in the chat as well.
Okay.
Are you okay with me sending the PowerPoint as well, or do you just want me to send just the file that you sent?
If you send the PowerPoint, just the slides.
Okay, perfect, perfect.
So take the scripted part off of it. you
Okay,
know.
yeah, okay.
It's not much script on there, but take it off.
Yeah. Okay, I could do that. So I'll send you all an email with everything. And then also before you go, can you complete our form and give us some feedback on what you want to see and then also what you gained from this session? And you will see Carol very soon because we'll be having another networking part 2 session over resumes and team building. So stay tuned for that. And then you guys will get emails from Mentor Tech about our future events. But other than that, thank you all so much, and I look forward to seeing you all in the future.
Okay.